Hi everyone, TARDIS Guy 123 here, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Waters of Amsterdam. The main range kicked off 2016 with this release, The Waters of Amsterdam, and that kickstarted a trilogy of Fifth Doctor, Tegan and Nyssa stories, which continued in Aquitaine and then concluded in the Peterloo Massacre. And I have already reviewed Aquitaine. I reviewed that about a month ago now, and now I've come back to the start of the trilogy, The Waters of Amsterdam. And I did originally plan to review it in order, but plans changed, and I listened to Aquitaine and loved it so much and thought, you know what, I need to review this first, really. This is great, I need to get my opinions out there now. And so that was pushed forward, and this one was pushed back. But anyway, the release itself here, you have the front cover with the Doctor, Nyssa and Tegan there, surrounded by some water which comes together to form this creature, the Nyx. And then you've got Amsterdam in the background there, of course. And on the spine here, you have standard spine stuff, really, nothing particularly special about that. And on the back here, you have, blurb and cast. Opening up now, you can see disc 1 there on the inside, parts 1 and 2 on it. And flipping that over, you can see disc 2 there with parts 3 and 4 on it. And there you have your suggestions for other releases that are available. Flipping that over now and getting the booklet out if I can. Yes, there we go. Got front once again, back right there, which is just Fifth Doctor logo and Fifth Doctor style of text, really. Opening up now, you have standard production credits and whatnot right there, and then there you have advertisement for the aforementioned Aquitaine. So then the story does pick up directly after the end of the TV story Arc of Infinity, which is where the Doctor, Tegan and Nyssa get reunited after Tegan was left behind at the end of Time Flight. And we didn't really get to hear much about what she got up to in that year. And this story sort of like fills that gap a bit. We hear what Tegan's been up to in between, well, since she last saw the Doctor and Nyssa, really. That's quite an interesting thing to do here, because we don't really know that much about it, and it gives us a chance to delve more into Tegan's character. And this story is very much all about Tegan's character, really. And then it also does still work within Doctor Who continuity in that the Elite was said to take place directly after Arc of Infinity, but this still works because technically they never leave Amsterdam here. This follows on directly after that, and then when the Elite starts, which is a lost story by the way, featuring the same TARDIS crew, it's just after they leave Amsterdam at the end here. So while this new trilogy doesn't exactly follow on from each other like most trilogies do, there is obviously a break in between this and Aquitaine for those lost stories to fit into. But that doesn't really bother me at all. It's just the way it works, really. You can't really say much more about it. And speaking of continuity and everything, there are some other bits in here as well which tie into that, such as the Fifth Doctor's solo stories, such as Omega, and the upcoming And You Will Obey Me, the start of the Master Trilogy, will probably fit in there also. That gap is filled in here as well, and it does begin to feel a bit like this story exists purely to plug a hole in continuity and everything. I didn't mind that too much. I was never really a fan of the Fifth Doctor solo thing. I mean, I like having the Fifth Doctor on his own, but it's not like the explanation they gave didn't really work for me. It worked for Omega, but then sort of like the idea that he kept travelling on his own for a while. I don't know, maybe we need a new hole in there somehow to fill that with. But I don't know, especially the way it worked out here, and whatnot. The way it implied it was just Omega as well. Didn't work too well for me, but you know, who knows, maybe later down the line we'll get another explanation. Maybe And You Will Obey Me will have its own explanation. But anyway, let's talk more about other things that go into this story really. It starts off in modern day, and well, not modern day necessarily, but modern for the TV show at the time, 1983. And you know, it starts off then, and you get Tegan having run in with her ex, who she dated during the part of the year when she was away from the TARDIS, and that is Kyle, and he is quite an interesting character here as well, and he gets along quite well with the Fifth Doctor really, although Tegan, there is a lot of animosity between them, and that gets explored over the course of this story. And I think that was quite an interesting route to go down to expand Tegan's character really, and it works very well. You can imagine that she would have got a boyfriend during that year away and everything, and how difficult that must have been for her, not being able to talk about where she'd been and everything with the Doctor, Nyssa and Adric, and all those adventures that she'd had. And that this explores the idea of that really, something that hasn't really been done in Doctor Who before. And the first episode is very much devoted for that. It's sort of like got flashbacks to how they met and everything, and you know, it's a slow burn, the first episode of this one is, and some people may like that, some people may not. I think it works in the context of the story, because ultimately the story that's going on here doesn't really work for 4 parts. It probably would have made a 2-part story on its own. So you've sort of like got this Tegan and Kyle subplot thrown in to expand that out really, and so that helps the pacing a lot. And then at the end of episode 1 we get introduced to the villains that are the Nicks, and you can listen to that episode actually for free on the Big Finish website. I believe it's free to download. I'm not sure whether you have to have the code from the subscription thing, newsletter subscription, but yeah, I'm sure if you do have the newsletter, then you can probably go back and find that one and get the download for it, or it may be released on Big Finish now. I'm not sure how they did it. They did do it at one point where they'd released them after the sort of like month was over, but I'm not sure. You'll have to check up, see how they go about that now. But anyway, that is the first episode, and I did quite enjoy it really. I think it was nice to do something a bit different, and you know, there was some comedy and there was some great moments with the Fifth Doctor himself, and also Nyssa and Tegan catching up and everything. It all works very well, and there are plot threads which are setting up the rest of the story, such as the painter Rembrandt, sort of like in his exhibit, and then they later in part 2 go back in time to visit him. And that's sort of like the main setting for the stories of like Amsterdam in the past, and during the East India Trading Company days and all of that glorious stuff. And I think Rembrandt himself is a wonderful character. He is incredible really. He's the best character of the piece. Jonathan Morris did a very good job writing that artist, who's sort of like out of luck, not doesn't have much money to his name, and it's sort of like that exploration of the thing where even though he's told by these characters from the future that he will be recognised one day and be famous, he's just like, well, that's not going to help me much now, is it? And you know, it's very true really, and very interesting in that respect. He is a very good character, rather grumpy, but it's the funny grumpy, it's the enjoyable grumpy. It's like that First Doctor vibe going on to him there. That prickly character, but with a strong heart, and one who's suffered through a lot. He has many layers, and despite not really playing a pivotal role in this story, he's off to the side a lot of it. He's just, when he is quote unquote on screen, he is wonderful. Yeah, he's just a sensational character right there. Well done to Jonathan Morris for that, and well done for the actor as well, who I'm just going to have a look at the name here. Richard James. kudos to him, he did a great job with that role. But now on to the more negative sides of this story, and one of those is that a lot of the twists in this are very predictable really. They're sort of like standard fare by now for Doctor Who, and I won't say what they are just in case you don't predict them and do get a pleasant surprise from them. But ultimately, I think I've seen that twist happen quite a few times now, and it's just doesn't. It's not that it's lost its magic really. It just doesn't really work as a twist. I think the way it was played, sort of like it was tried to portray it as a big twist in the story, but ultimately it wasn't really. It was very predictable, and sadly, that did take away from my enjoyment of the story a bit, and also the way the twist went about and everything. I just didn't enjoy it so much on first listen. That's where things started to go downhill for me on first listen. However, on second listen, I did sort of like enjoy it a bit more from that point on. I'm not sure why I didn't enjoy this as much on first listen really, and there are probably many different things which played into that. Maybe it was where I listened to it, maybe I just wasn't giving it my full attention, maybe I just needed a second listen to grow accustomed to it, I don't know. But second listen, this did improve for me quite a fair bit really, and I'm glad I did give it another shot, and that I did enjoy it a lot more. Didn't make it perfect, the twist still didn't work. Well, it did work in the context that it's not a plot hole, but it just didn't work in that, plot twist is sort of like supposed to be a big surprise. Well, not necessarily a big surprise, but at least somewhat surprising. But this one just felt very mediocre in the way it was done, and I saw it coming a mile off really. And there are quite a few twists in this one, especially towards the end, and I did see quite a few of them on their way. And then I just thought, oh gosh, this is happening again, and now we're back to that. And it sort of like kept throwing this one character around, like switching his allegiances, and ultimately did get a bit bored of that really. So then part 4, the epic climax of this story, is the one I have the most problems with really, and it's sort of goes on a bit too long in that it reaches a point where the episode could be coming to an end. It got quite a somewhat interesting setting. I did appreciate the setting a lot more on second listen, but then it throws that setting away, returns to a previous setting, and the story just sort of like runs along and you think, can this be over soon please? Because I sort of felt that it should have been over a bit earlier than that, and it feels like it's trying to go for a more explosive ending than it would have had otherwise, but ultimately it does feel like it was just an extended ending that didn't really need to be that. I felt it could have been tied up fairly well before that. So that was a bit of a shame really, and not too fond of the way that worked out. However, there was one twist that I kind of appreciated a bit, involving a character, and we're going back to the twists now, and I did moan about quite a few of them, but there was a certain twist that I did like, and I'm not sure why I'm really saying this to be honest, because I can't really say what it is because that will spoil it, and when you listen to it you will have no idea what twist it was. But actually I can sort of give hints to what it was, because it's one that has quite a big effect on Tegan really, and you get to see Tegan's and the Doctor's reaction to it, and it's quite emotional really. And even though I could see what was going to happen next, it was quite obvious to me, and I'm sure many other listeners as well, but nevertheless it did have quite an impact on those characters, and it provided a nice moment between those two. So now for my summary of my thoughts on the story, and I did enjoy it a great deal. I think on second listen it has some funny moments, it has some heartfelt moments, it has some action-packed moments, but some very predictable plot twists at the same time, and I do feel that the ending was stretched out a bit too much really, and also it does feel a bit too much like it's there to plug, if you'll excuse the pun on the water theme here, plug a little bit of continuity in there at the same time. And ultimately Jonathan Morris has done a decent job with this one, I will say. Not his best work. He has He has set the bar very high for himself though, with classics such as We Are the Daleks, but nevertheless, it's a good story, a good start to the trilogy. I was thinking of giving it a high 7, but I'm going to go a low 8 instead. So yeah, I'm going to be nice and go with an 8 for this story. And yeah, it's an 8 for this one, a 10 for this one. This one you're going to have to wait and see. But yeah, thanks for watching everyone. Next up will be the review of Image of the Fendal. And until then, bye everyone.
It's almost as if the rain is trying to get in.
It is.
What?
This rain isn't a naturally occurring phenomenon.
What do you mean?
Watch out! The window!
Behind me! All of you! Behind me!
They're forming out of the rain!
There you all are. I thought you might be in trouble. And it turns out I was completely right. It's no use. Those things are everywhere. Every canal, every storm drain, every dripping gutter. You may be right.
You are not Kildak. Of course, Valentine.
It's no good. We're surrounded.
You have been sentenced to execution.
Ready, all of you, when I say run,